Hey everybody, now I want to take a look at a brand new Aussie film that is out there called Wyrmwood Apocalypse. Now, of course, this is a long overdue sequel to a movie that you may remember I loved years ago. The original Wyrmwood film was like something I can't even explain. It was basically a throwback to those films that we knew and loved from Australia in the 70s and the 80s, the films like Mad Max, the films that kind of really conjured up that now famous genre called Ozploitation. Now, what made Wyrmwood so good was the fact that the creators, brothers Keir and Tristan Roach Turner, didn't do anything to change from that genre. So often these days you see filmmakers that kind of want to go into what I guess a lot of people would call B or C grade horror and action films, and they deliberately try to make the film so that it's a nicer film because that's what audiences expect these days. That wasn't the case with Wyrmwood. It was pure Ozploitation, and as a result, it had a real cult following. Now, this time around, Wyrmwood Apocalypse is being brought out by a major distributor, and it's got a lot of people who are very, very excited about the film. And I'll admit that did kind of make me a little bit nervous, knowing that there was a major distributor attached, because I thought, what have they done with this film? Has a studio made Keir and Tristan change this and kind of make it a big blockbuster kind of film rather than that Ozploitation feel that we had with the first film? Now, to my surprise, I have to say nothing has changed. This film is it's fun, it's gory, it's everything that you want from an Ozploitation film. Now, the thing is, even though it feels like a long time has passed, the film itself actually picks up pretty much straight after the events of the original film. Barry, played by Jay Gallagher, and Brooke, Bianca Brady, they've gone out and they've actually joined up with a bunch of other rebels, including two sisters, Grace, played by Tassia Zala, and Maxie, played by Shantae Barnes-Cohen. And that kind of that relationship between them is interestingly put during this film, and they end up having to work together even more so after Grace is captured by the character that this film is kind of told through the eyes of, Reese, Luke Mackenzie, and then she's taken off and given to the Colonel, played by Jake Ryan, and of course the surgeon, played by Nicholas Bashir. And it's kind of interesting the way that this film has been made, because it's pretty much told through the eyes of Reese, who, to a lot of people watching this film, is almost the bad guy, but this becomes a redemption kind of journey, a redemption kind of story, because Reese thinks that he is doing the right thing. He's going out there, he's catching infected people and taking them to the Colonel and the surgeon in the belief that they're having experiments done on them so that there can possibly be a cure for this plague that's going across the world. Now, as I said, this is a story of almost a redemption story in a way, because he soon starts to learn what he's doing might not be the right thing. And I think that's what makes this film so special. This film, it would have been so easy for the filmmakers to have had this movie be told by Maxie and Grace's story, from their point of view, from their eyes. And that probably still would have worked as a film, but I think this film becomes more interesting because it is told from Reese's point of view. The fact that it shows a character doing what he thinks is doing right and then learning more about what he is doing. I think that actually makes this much more of an interesting story than what it would have been if it was just Grace and Maxie, and then Maxie having to go and rescue Grace. Now, I will give you one warning with this film. I would not go into this film if I hadn't seen the first one. I really think that people need to have seen the first film, especially so you know a little bit more about Barry and Brooke. And there's lots of references in this film to events that happened in the first film. So I would highly recommend that if you want to go and see Wyrmwood Apocalypse, watch the first one first on a streaming platform or something like that, or go out and grab the DVD. I've got the DVD in my collection. It's well worth having. Go out and do that, because that way you get so much more out of the sequel. When it comes to filmmaking, I've got to take my hats off to Kia and Tristan. This film looks brilliant. I had the privilege of interviewing Kia, and I talked to him about things like how did he think this film would go now that things like The Walking Dead are so popular, because of course that wasn't really around when the first film came out. And he's right with what he says. This film is very, very different to what you would get from a TV show from like The Walking Dead. It's graphic, it's gory, the characters are interesting and sensational. I still got to say, even though he is a villain of the piece, I really love the character of the surgeon, and Nicholas Bashir just goes absolutely crazy with this role. You can tell that he loves playing the role, and he just makes it some kind of maniacal character like the Joker, and does it so, so well. I also think that Grace and Maxie, great characters, and so well acted by the actresses playing those roles too. They definitely are a great introduction into this franchise, and it works well. And that's one of the things I have to say. The characters that are introduced into this film don't feel out of place for the franchise. Sometimes when you watch a series and they bring in a character, you kind of question why that character has been brought into the franchise. But no, the characters that have been brought in this time around just fit right into the universe. They slot in so easily that it's almost seamless. So, look, I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed this film. If you love exploitation films, you are going to absolutely love Wyrmwood Apocalypse. I'm giving it 3.5 out of 5. Do yourself an absolute favour, to use a great Aussie quote. Go and see this film. It is absolutely sensational, and I cannot wait to see where this franchise goes next.